none other than Zach Fitzwalter. Now, Zach, what to me excited about this is Zach's literally spends his entire day talking about games and their role in business and application development, and basically our everyday lives and how that can affect us. So I'm super excited. I'd like you guys to give a warm welcome to Zach as I transition over. Hey man, how you doing? Pretty good. Apart from my little technological issues this morning, but it's all good. Bloody IT guys. Okay, so that's the same thing in IT in app development. Turn it on and turn it off. Much. Cool, brother. So, where to even start? What is gamification? How do you get into it? I do have been known to play a little bit of COD and iPhone games from time to time. I have never played World of Warcraft. I played RuneScape. I used to play RuneScape like a crazy man. Yeah. What? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, what makes it so engaging? Why is it that some games are brilliant and everyone flocks to them and others are a complete flop? Hmm? Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw that on Netflix. Don't think I've watched it, but I saw it, the notification of it on Netflix. It's pretty crazy. Okay. That just clicked for me. The Okay, so I'm just connecting dots my own here. So games like, say, Subway Surfers, where you've got your Facebook friends and you can see where they're at. Is that that's why people keep coming back to it because that community element? Okay. Okay, so elaborate on that in a business context. How can entrepreneurs and business owners use gamification to their advantage, whether it be in actually creating an app created or their everyday businesses, so their websites and whatnot. All the monies. Yeah. Okay. Oh shoot, man.
Other issues as well. Like
You know, I just
it could be
realised
really
we
hard to
missed
find.
audio this whole time. Can we start up near the beginning again? Says I
Yeah.
turned the audio right down when we started, and I only just had a comment from someone saying she can't hear us. So
Are you
let's.
kidding?
I'll. You know what? Let's keep going. I've got the replay, so I'll show them the replay a bit later. It's all good.
Yeah, sure
Yes.
thing.
So we're talking about gamification. We're talking about why it's motivation and the business case for it. So
Yeah.
quick replay for everyone who's here. We're talking about gamification. So you know what? Why am I talking about it? I should let you talk about the quick recap of what we just discussed.
Let's do a quick recap because we were silent. Okay, quick recap. Gamification is about framing everyday activities like games to make them more enjoyable. And that's because some games can be incredibly motivating. So we talked about World of Warcraft very briefly, and how, people have spent like 50 game time in that particular game as of 2012. And then we discussed some of the reasons why it's so engaging. So, World of Warcraft is great because it supports different types of player motivations. So some people go to compete, some people go to socialize with others, some people go to explore. And, by supporting all these different player motivations, you're supporting a huge number of people that can be incredibly engaging. But then we also talked about some psychological needs that we have as humans and how games do a really good job of supporting these. Now, when it comes to looking at your business, so where it's easy to jump into the notion that you need gamification to help engage people, but you want to take a step back and ask, first of all, why are you looking at gamification in the first place?
Okay. So it's not a matter of just throwing in some games, have a little. Actually, I think that's why quizzes work to an extent, but let's think that a bit later. But it's not a matter of just throwing
Yeah,
up a game and you're going to make all the money. There's got to be some sort of
yeah, that's right.
reasoning behind that. So,
Yes.
what is your thought
So yeah, there's a lot of
there?
So there's a lot of systems that are available that you can easily use to add points, badges, and leaderboards into your website. And these may work for a certain type of people, but because we're seeing them again and again, they do get quite boring. You really need to go back and look at and then designing an experience for your people around, or your users around that particular area. So where you can use gamification, you can look at it in relation to your business objectives. And if you have something, an issue that you're tackling to do with motivation, look at turning to gamification or turning to motivational design to try and tweak a couple of things to make it more motivating. So I've seen it used in, for example, internally in businesses.
Okay.
They're an online shoe store, which you may have heard. Yeah.
Okay.
So they are quite a large company. Lots and lots of people employed internally, and with such a large company that it would be hard to get to know everyone. So what they did was they introduced a game called the Zappos Face Game, and all it did was that when you logged onto your computer internally, it popped up with another picture of an employee, and you had to guess that person's name. If you guessed it correctly, yes, this is just internal.
Okay.
So you guessed the name correctly, you found out more information about them, and then you kind of learned about people in your they learn about people in the business. So the objective of this was there were so many employees, how can they create more of a community feel? And so they introduced this internal game. Super simple, just guess someone's name, but it kind of to get to know everyone.
Okay. Sounds great from a HR cutesy perspective.
Yeah.
How does that affect the business? Is it more building culture, or what is it that is the end result of doing that?
Okay, so well, that would be looking at supporting your employees and making them happier, I guess. So supporting their motivation. So there's two types of motivation that people talk about. There's intrinsic motivation, which is when you're internally driven to do something. You do something for the satisfaction of it. So, for example, you could write blog posts because you just really enjoy writing blog posts. That could be a kind of work that you find intrinsically motivating. Extrinsic motivation, and that's when you do something for an external reason. So it could be because you work because you want to get paid, so you get a paycheck, or you work to avoid punishment, or you work for social status or something like that. You do something for a particular external reason. Games are really good because they generally, when people play it, they're quite intrinsically motivated, and this type of motivation is awesome. So if you can support intrinsic motivation, having someone internally motivated, they generally have or can be motivated for longer, and it's more enjoyable well-being. But if you look at extrinsic motivation, you know, it's short-lived. You have to keep increasing the amount of, for example, if you're rewarding someone, you have to increase the rewards, otherwise people get demotivated. So how that relates to work is you want employees who are intrinsically motivated, right? If they're extrinsically motivated, then it's not as good. So with intrinsically motivated employees, you want to look at how you can support that, and that is to create a better community for people, to give someone a challenge that is suited to their skill level, and also to give them some kind of choice in what they do in the role.
Okay, so you've got that going on for internal purposes, and you've got a epic team and they're all loving life and whatnot. How do you use it to get more business, especially as someone running an online business? As more business? Oh, dude, yellow cups.
Yellow cups. Hey, nice.
Anyway, shiny object. So how does that show? Because I know that you got things like Facebook, people, there's something to do the addiction of the like, and taking action as some sort of chemical change. Do you guys take notice of that application, or what's your process for that?
Facebook's really interesting. Just in the way it's designed as well. So you can look at applying similar principles to kind of your online websites and resources as well, especially if you're in that kind of space. And so that is supporting a sense of community, for example. So I've seen some people with their online, say they have stores or they have blogs, they'll create a separate Facebook group, or they'll create some kind of forum. People can then engage with each other and create a community around it, which is quite useful because that's supporting that feeling of relatedness. There's other things you can look at doing as well. So, you can make it clear and easy for people to find information on your website, but then you can also give them a sense of choice. Look, there's so many things you can do. It just depends on what exactly you're trying to achieve.
Okay, so you'd almost be creating a sense of loss if they don't come back, or creating, I guess, an addiction for them mentally.
Yeah.
In a positive.
Yeah, so the chemical reactions you can look at, especially when it comes to reward or feeling a sense of reward. Things like dopamine get released in the brain, and that makes us feel good. Games, the same thing. So it supports this in which is important. Yeah, games. It depends on what you're trying to achieve and what you can do. So the idea is you want to keep bringing people back to a certain extent to your website. And for that, you may look at supporting different things. So it depends on who your audience is. But if your audience likes a challenge, for example, you may create a set of challenges that they have to complete on your website. Prefer socializing, then you may include aspects which help people socialize. But yeah, there are some key things which you should, look at doing in order to support engagement on your website. It's worthwhile probably talking about the concept of flow as well.
Definitely.
You're totally engaged in a particular activity, and you lose sense of time. You're so engaged in chess or rock climbing or dancing and, of course, playing video games. So it's when you're concentrating on an activity. And there's a couple of things you need. So you can look at this and supporting this in your businesses as well, or in the activities that you're kind of providing people. To do this, you need a couple of things. So you need kind of a clear goal, something which people are trying to achieve. You need to have good feedback, like how you're going towards completing that goal.
Okay.
And you need to have, kind of a number of these things to support.
Okay, so online world, I think means people are either looking for a sale or a lead. Let's say average homepage of a website.
Yeah.
What would be your take on getting the lead first?
Okay, right. So it depends. I'd probably look at behavioral economics for this,
Okay.
and some examples from that. And when it comes to online websites, it's interesting. So gamification is good if you have a motivation problem. So you're trying to motivate someone to do something. So if you're you got a website, you want as fewer clicks as possible to get someone signed up. So it really depends. The gamification solution for that is probably overkill. Like you probably don't need to design an entire game just to get leads, for example, but you just need to make it as easy as possible and show the value that people are going to get.
Yes, that's really what I call your offer sucks if you don't. People aren't opting in. Basically, you don't actually need to look.
Yeah.
Is there things you can do on your site from a gamification point of view of how things are positioned or how things look or anything like that you can?
I mean, this more relates to user experience than gamification, I think, when you look at the visual and things like that. But yeah, there's a couple of things you can do just to encourage and talk on making engaging and motivating apps. And we talked about a couple of things there. So looking at how you can increase, for example, people signing up. And it relates to two aspects. So there's usability. So you're going to make it really easy to use so people don't get annoyed and they don't leave. And so that includes making it really easy to sign up, people feedback, maybe where they've entered something incorrectly, to make it really easy to learn how to actually use your website and how to make it work. And then there's the motivation side of things as well. So if you've got good usability, that's a good start, but then you can look at motivation to encourage people to do things.
Okay, you just got me really excited there. Motivation learning. So education,
Yeah.
How can we apply this in education? A, for online training for specific sort of training, and B, for
Training.
Online training. So teaching someone how to do a very specific thing. And B, from an education point of view, where we're actually talking about high schools and primary schools and that early stage of development. How can we use gamification to help our kids learn more?
Well, good question. Where do you want to start? That's a lot of questions.
Loaded. I'm excited about education itself, so let's start with the kids and then let's go to the online world because it's kind of natural progression there, I believe. I hope. I'll be wrong. You can tell me.
Yeah, of course. Okay, well, first up, let's say you have some kids and they're not doing their chores. Do you have kids?
I don't.
No. So it's interesting. If you have a look at, we have things already in place like behavioral charts and giving stickers and things or rewarding our kids extrinsically to do their chores, for example. And there's a couple of great tools out there which people have developed to take this one step further. One of my favorite examples is Chore Wars. So the website chorewars.com.
Chorewars.com. Okay, what's this about?
That's fantastic. So what it does is it turns the whole chore completing experience into a game. If you've ever played a role-playing game, maybe Dungeons and Dragons or something similar, you played RuneScape, right? Yeah. So it's kind of similar to that. You create a party, you add your kids to it, or you add your, maybe you could be renting with friends. You add everyone to a party and then you create a number of chores that people have to complete. And this is really nice. It takes a basic to-do list almost and then turns it into a game-like scenario where people then get experience points for completing tasks, they get gold, and then you can add your own rewards as well. So this is a perfect example of, gamification in terms of encouraging people. It does really cater towards playing games, so it may not suit everyone, but it's a great example of just taking a simple task, adding a few game elements in order to make it more engaging.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the moment. Finally, you can claim experience points for housework. Recruit
It's fantastic.
adventurers from your household or office, and whenever one of you completes a chore, you can log in and claim XP.
Yep.
That is epic from a gamer's point of view.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a great twist on it. And there's excellent examples out there. So another example is, do you have a Fitbit, for example?
I don't, but I have some friends who love it. And obviously, it's taken off.
Fitbit's super popular. So that's it's good being able to, there's a number of trackers, which you can track the number of steps you do during the day. And for some people, that may be enough to motivate them to reach, say, 10,000 steps. They may set their own goal. But then you have things like Fitbit, and what they've done is add more game elements to encourage us to reach our goals. So with Fitbit, you see how many steps you've done during the day, but you can, for example, you can see on a leaderboard how many you've done compared to everyone else. So it supports that sense of competition. You can unlock badges if you do certain tasks. And so just adding these kind of game elements can make it more motivating for people. But I'm getting sidetracked. We're talking about education.
That's it.
I just like the...
That applies to education, I believe, doesn't it? Okay, so reward or the opposite? I'm getting tongue-tied right now. Reward or punishment? What's a bigger motivating factor, or does it depend on the individual?
So that's a type of extrinsic motivation. So reward and punishment is, you do something for either being rewarded or punished. That's an extrinsic motivation. But if you can support intrinsic motivation, that's what you really want.
Okay, so
we can go back to education if you want and have a look at the class.
Let's talk about,
like
I said, someone who's tell the big question. How early would you start education if you were designing the education system today?
Good question. I don't know because I'm not a teacher, an early primary school teacher. But saying that, you can look at the current systems and you can look at ways in which you can redesign them to make them more engaging. There's actually a school
in
New York.
Or is it a scrap and redo?
It depends. You'd be great to scrap it and redo it, but that would cost a lot of money and would involve a lot of time, I think.
Remove the element of what is it that in a perfect world, how would you design the schooling system?
Okay, well, I would look at a particular school in New York which has done it already. I can't remember the game, but the school's name. But they basically got game designers to come in and to help redesign the system. So when kids wake up, they get an SMS with a particular quest that they have to do that day, so they can start thinking about it, preparing. They can then start working on these quests. Now, it sounds weird, I know, quests and stuff in a school context. But if you look at the current school context, or if you look at things like exams, for example, and you compare exams to video games, there's so much that could be improved. So I don't know if you remember doing exams in high school. I did them. They were, it's interesting. Yeah, horrible, right? So what's interesting about exams is you fill it out, you go and you sit down, you fill out the exam, you hand it in. It takes about 2 weeks for you to get your mark back, and then if you failed that video game. With video games, first of all, the turnaround time is much quicker, so we know if we've failed. So, for example, if I'm playing Mario, I die immediately. I know I failed, but I get to restart again, so I get a number of lives. So it's interesting. Some things with video games are designed much better in the sense that, it's quick feedback. You've done if you don't have to wait 2 weeks, for example, and you get to try again. And it'd be interesting applying some of these things to, for example, the education system to make it more engaging.
Okay, so basically you change the speed of application and change how people motivate it. So rather than looking
Mm.
for, rather than them being graded on a regular system, they're looking for immediate feedback. Am I on the right
Yeah,
track? Do
immediate
I
feedback.
adjust?
Yeah,
And you replay the
yes,
level?
immediate feedback to help us, kind of, especially when it comes to games, but also to motivate us. It's
Okay,
really
so
important to know how we're going.
replaying the levels, is that something that would be part of it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you should be able to fail as many times as possible.
That's awesome. You're something me think about, like, okay, so if you've got a game, you can reset or go back to your last saved place. So why can't education be
Mm.
the same? Because so much about education I'm seeing is you fail, you are a failure. You have to. That's what we're
You
taught.
have to repeat the whole class or the whole semester again or the whole year. So it'd be interesting applying some game principles.
Okay,
Mm.
that's yeah, cool, very cool. Um, so taking that out of schooling and we're going back towards online
Sure.
training, how can online educators apply that to training specific courses? Like, if we had a training portal, how would you
Mm.
structure that in order for a completion of your training and b best retention of knowledge?
Yeah, okay. So this is interesting. And I think just the fact that you're offering an online training portal is a great start because what that means is people can jump on and start learning whenever they want. They're not, restricted to place and start learning. I think this is why really online courses incredibly popular because you can jump on, you can start learning about something from a particular expert in an area, which is great. Retention is an issue with a lot of these things. So a lot of people get excited. They're like, yeah, I totally want to learn programming for app development, or I totally want to learn about marketing.
Well,
And they'll jump in
they get the reward mentally by buying it, but they don't actually get
the
they don't
value.
get
Yeah.
they don't get the value because they don't even do half the course. And you're like, you've just spent up to like $2,000 on this thing, and you've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
no idea what's actually in it. But it blows my mind because I think I personally I go everything like, if I'm paying for it, I want to study it, I want to absorb the information, I want to use it. I think
Sure.
so many people get the high from that initial purchase. So
Oh, yeah, totally.
how do we get
But
them to engage further, or was it that if you don't want to learn, you don't learn?
I guess it depends on what your reasons are for purchasing it. I mean, so we want to better ourselves as human beings, but you do get rewarded for there's that kind of impulsivity. It's like, yeah, by just buying this, I feel better because I've made this one step closer. But then actually doing it is the hard part because you've got to put in the hard work. The problem is we have so many different doing so many different things. So just trying to get someone's attention for a little bit for them to say complete a course can be quite hard. But there are things you can do. Um, so with online courses, a good start is to break it up into bite-sized material, which a lot of people do these days. You see on Coursera, the popular ones are like 4-minute videos, 5-minute videos, something which people can consume on the bus in a break instead of hour-long lectures. So I come from the university system, and trying to keep someone engaged for 2 hours is incredibly difficult with everyone their laptops these days and with iPhones and things like
Is
that.
that is that a general human thing, or is it a shift because of the way we're learning now with instant Facebook, etc.?
Well, yeah, I think it depends. So I guess our it depends on our attention spans, but also what other distractions we have going on. Like just this device is incredibly distracting. It tells me all my, I get notifications from it. I have the ability to play games wherever I am. So you're vying for people's attention here. You've got to provide an engaging experience. Otherwise, they'll kind of drop it and go play Angry Birds or something else instead, which is more engaging.
Okay, so you need to position yourself as a priority in their mind. How do you do that though? Like,
Yeah. So, you've got to look at how you can make your online course, for example, more engaging. There's a couple of things you can do. So, first of all, bite-sized chunks of video are always good. Video is really good as well, as opposed to text, because having to read text is not as engaging. But a lot of people are getting into videos these days. I mean, this is probably why we're having an interview.
exactly. I absolutely love video because people are able to see it. They're able to see you. They're able to see me, and actually
Oh yeah, totally.
see we're real
Yeah.
people. I mean, I find it
Yes.
exciting, but of course you're going to extend that in education. So
Yeah. Of course.
probably got a real example. developing some training programs at the moment. How do we? People love what they're doing; they get excited about it. But how do you keep that motivation going without us having to say, "Hey, how are you doing? Have you done this?" We don't want to pester them.
I know you don't want to exactly, and you don't want to kind of punish them for not doing it. And look, it can be hard. Not everyone's going to be motivated. It really depends on the person. And this is the biggest takeaway from gamification: is everyone is different. So you got to look at what motivates them.
Okay. So first thing I said, break it down into chunk-sized pieces.
Yep.
And is it just me that you can't hear, Darren? The OBS seems to pick me up, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Break it down into bite-sized pieces, then what? So what other tools are we able to do to make it work better?
So yeah, videos are good. Breaking it down. Giving people the ability to ask questions and give feedback is really important as well. So, videos are great for one-way interaction, but to get feedback. So if I have questions as a learner, and to get quick feedback is really important.
Yeah.
And, you can do this in a number of ways. Obviously, you don't want to be supporting every email that comes through potentially, depending on your class size. So you could create a forum where other people can talk and discuss as well.
Okay.
Checking out to see if it's working.
Make sure I've got sound coming through. Just keep going.
Yeah, so that's this looks hilarious.
Hello.
Yes, so yeah, giving people the ability to create a community is really important, and to get feedback, as well as giving people the ability to choose what they study as well. So, you can have a particular list of things that they go through, but if you give them some choice, that always helps. One of the greatest examples of education and gamification combined that I've seen is Duolingo. It is an app and an online website which helps teach you another language.
Okay.
And it's really nice. So it takes the language learning process and does something really, really special with it.
Okay.
How are you going? Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. They're not hearing me for some reason, but I think... Let's just continue with it.
So you can upload it later.
Yeah.
With your voice. Yeah. Okay. No worries.
That's right. At least people can hear you. I think they're getting the feedback there. So it should be okay. Let's continue because I think people are getting the information from me anyway, so they don't really need me.
So we'll continue, but you'll upload the video later with your voice. So, okay, we're talking about Duolingo now. Duolingo is one of the best examples that I've seen when it comes to creating an engaging educational setting.
Yep.
So what Duolingo does is, previously, if you wanted to learn a language, you'd have to sign up for a class person, and you'd go along, pay a lot of money to do that. Or you could, get CDs, which would teach you. Or maybe there are online courses as well. What Duolingo does is it takes language learning, the website duolingo.com, you can check it out, but it breaks it down into a number of you can choose from. So it's kind of like, it feels like a game. So you start with really basic. So if I'm learning Spanish at the moment, it starts with really basic learning, but then you can choose. It's like, oh, okay, I want to learn about pets next, or I want to learn about food. And then you can keep going down and choosing kind of the way you go through it. There is a path, but you have some choice. But it breaks it down into bite-sized chunks. And then it has really engaging tasks. So it's not just eating it. There's almost these like little mini games which you play. So ones are, you have to translate it. You have to write it out. You have to choose what a particular word means. There's a picture. You actually have to speak translate it yourself. There's these kind of mini games which you play. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes total, so it's perfect, bite size. You can play it every day, and then you play that and you work your way through it. It rewards you, so you get experience points. So coming back every day, you get more and more, and then you also get kind of a virtual currency where you can do things like unlock, for example, so you can learn how to flirt in Spanish. So it takes the language process, right now. And it makes it more engaging. Just by adding these few things.
Okay, I'm going to ask, how do you flirt in Spanish? Just for our listeners.
Oh, good question. I haven't got enough coins to unlock that particular pack yet, so
Okay.
I cannot. But I can tell you some animal words in Spanish.
Okay. All right. Cool. So,
Yeah.
what I'm understanding, to make sure I'm on the right track, because I need to check myself. So,
No, that's a big area to try and
it's like,
discuss.
learning thing isn't right, my thing. So, you're doing an online course. You split up in smaller videos. In the actual trainings,
Yep.
you have mini tasks that people can complete. And
Yes.
then do you
So
offer
even
some sort of reward system for that?
yeah, you could. I mean, so you could look at, for example, having even just quizzes. It's not as interesting as some of the things that Duolingo offers, but even just having a quiz where someone can test out their knowledge immediately after the video is quite useful. You can see then how they've gone, and it's kind of interactive as well. So you get that immediate feedback to see how well you kind of understood that knowledge. You could then look at using experience points or rewards to encourage people to come back every day, but there's got to be some reason to get experience points. Maybe they're comparing themselves to other learners, or the experience points can be used to level lock things you can do, and it really depends on what you're offering. Of course, there is the difficulty of having to build all of this as well, and so you can do that in a number of ways. You can keep it simple. You can kind of implement it yourself. A very simplified version, which maybe you have to manually do. So reply to people email telling them they've leveled up, giving them experience points, but that doesn't scale very well. So you may have to look at using some tools. There is an achievements plugin for WordPress, which is quite nice. So
that's cool.
And you can tie that into your educational plugins as well, and to BB Press and things like that. So if you're using WordPress, I'm not sure if it's been updated in a while, but check out the achievements plugin. It can be quite useful, and it rewards achievements automatically for people depending on actions that they do.
That's cool. That's the next hurdle I was going to think on. I'm thinking of right now, like, how do you do that? Because no one's, unless they have access to a Zach, it's difficult to develop those tools.
So you can do it yourself, manually, try out some little things. When we look at making or designing video games, what we'll do is we'll often build a really basic board game just to test it out with people. So that's just using pen and paper, even though we're going to turn it to a video game down the track. Or we were prototyping a game to encourage people to undertake more steps. This was a couple of weeks ago, called Step Bet. And we just ran that through Messenger. So we just used Facebook Messenger and a Google spreadsheet. Low fidelity, and it does take more work, but you can implement that yourself quite easily and kind of adjust it and change it. You can then look at using some kind of plugin, but the plugin has got to suit business objectives. It's not just good enough grabbing a plugin, installing it, and hoping for the best. You've got to really stop first, think about what your business objectives are, and then think about what are the best game elements you can use. And then, of course, the most expensive step is to hire a gamification designer to design a solution for you. That's probably going to have the most impact because, these guys these people have spent a lot of time studying, working in gamification, but it is going to be the most expensive as well. So there are a number of options, and you can learn about gamification. There are websites out there which can help you learn about it and put it into action.
Do you have any training yet? Or is it in the works?
Do I have any training? Ooh, that is in the works. So I've just started. So I've recently completed a PhD in gamification.
Oh, so
and I'm transitioning in. Yeah, so finished the PhD last year in gamification design.
Okay, so can we call you Doc?
You can call me Doctor, yeah, for sure. Although I can't save lives, but I can gamify them.
Love it.
Officially.
Cool. Okay, so sorry, I kind of cut you off there. You're working on something.
Fine.
You're working on a training.
Yeah, so a PhD thesis isn't the most engaging thing, as I've known from doing research in the area of engagement. So it's not super engaging to read a PhD thesis. It's like 400 papers with not many pictures. So I'm turning that into a website. So if you go to the website gamificationgeek.com, it's taking all the information from the thesis and turning it into a more accessible online version. And, I'll practice what I preach and end up putting videos and things up there, but
Work in progress.
works. So yeah, it's still beta mode, but it's up there and available for those.
What is your process here? Are you it's WordPress and you're got the back end there? How's it look?
Started with WordPress, but then I wanted to try out Squarespace and see what it was like. Squarespace is good, but it's limited in terms of what functionality it has. And I'm probably going to go back to WordPress, to be honest, just because it's much easier. There's plugins for educational tools that you can add quite easily.
Okay.
Squarespace is a bit limited.
Yeah, it's not really designed for anything more than a static site.
No, it really isn't. Yeah. So it's currently hosted on Squarespace, but I'll look at taking it back to I think DigitalOcean and WordPress.
Okay, so developing side, you go for something like WordPress is pretty easy. You use something like Advanced Achievements, that Achievements plugin with your WordPress tool. Yeah. Any other recommendations?
Yeah, you could.
What in WordPress, is there themes or is there something that works better than other things as far as you've seen?
So, I mean, with WordPress, you want to get a theme which you're comfortable with, but looks good as well. So I would go ahead and purchase a $50 theme from ThemeForest, just because you have the support for a year as well. If you have any questions, you can jump online and get feedback. Visually, make it look good. It's always good to have a couple of professional photos taken, which is always useful, and you can usually get them quite cheaply done from local photographers. And I think then look at the plugins that are going to work the best for you. So I'm looking at some educational plugins at the moment.
Okay.
But otherwise, you can get away with YouTube, but obviously you don't get as many tools and analytics and things like that as you could.
Cool. So
particular achievement.
Is this an area that I know there are a lot of learning platforms available, like Udemy and
Skillshare,
Thinkific, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
From your perspective, are they making the right steps, or is it better to control the environment yourself with WordPress?
Oh, it's hard. So, I mean, if you're doing it yourself, so there's benefits from using something like Skillshare and Udemy in the fact that they've got the system there set up for you to go. Competition in that space. I know with Udemy, just getting noticed, it can be harder and harder, and a lot of people are offering free courses temporarily, and then in order to sell on other courses. It's great because the platform's set up, so you just have to kind of record videos, put them up, and then you're set. But of course, there's a bit more work involved in setting up a WordPress website with educational system and plugins there.
So would you connect something like SMS to your course training? So I know you're talking about the courses before when people are going through like shorter, I don't know, let's call it 6-week training. Would you send them a weekly SMS? Is that something that would affect the way that they consume information, or?
Could send them a weekly SMS. Yeah, you'd want them to opt into it. Wow. I mean, you could send it out. You don't want to annoy people.
They'd opt in
so if they're getting
start the course, I'd say. Use a little checkbox.
Yeah. So you could send them that just to remind them, hey, or especially if you haven't seen them in a while, it could be good to send them a notification.
Okay.
If you could make that notification playful or funny, that always helps. Especially when you're interrupting people. You want to make it a little bit interesting.
I think the idea there would be personable, like one-on-one communication, but at scale. Because if you're building a training, you want to be able to cater to multiple people. It doesn't make sense sending 20, 30 messages every morning, plus doing more training, plus doing stuff together. But you still want to have them feel like they're not a number. Because they are.
Yeah, for sure.
You literally just can't. You don't have the time to do that every day.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, it's this trade-off. And this goes back to kind of, we're talking about emails, why people play games and player motivations and how people play games for different reasons. There's different types of players. You like Call of Duty games, RuneScape, etc. I prefer board games. I do like Call of Duty as well, but just for the sake of games where there's not much competition. So you have different people who like different things from games, and it's going to be the same for your system. Like some people will just like listening to videos, being quite passive. Some people will love interacting or sharing their knowledge with other people. So if you have different ways to support the different types of people, that's good. And if you can make it personable as well, like you said, grabbing their first name, using it in the SMS, but then also tailoring the content to the particular type of person they can use for.
Okay, that's the first part was I got it fully understood. Tailoring the content via the SMS that's starting to get complex.
Oh yeah, and this is all theoretical at the moment, like how you'd implement this. But if you could, for example, someone likes a challenge, you could send them a challenge SMS where they have to reply, and then they find out if they're correct. Or you could give them a ranking if they like competition, tell them how they're going on a leaderboard, or connect them with someone else. There's different things you can do. And again, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So you really want to tailor build it for yourself.
So you could really do something like an onboarding quiz just to get to know you type thing, and using that data, you can do the stuff you mentioned. So if someone selects I'm motivated by X, you can change their line of communication for the duration of the training based on that, as opposed to
that's a great idea. So finding out as much information about the person that you're creating the content for, super important, because you can then tailor it to what they need. Of course, you run the risk of then putting too many steps in the way of signing up, and then you may have people drop off, but it's kind of this balance, right?
I think it's something you have to do post sign up, so they've already become a customer of yours, but it's more an onboarding process. Yeah.
And if you could make it an interesting quiz, like what kind of person are you, or what kind of learner are you, for you. The personality tests out there, people love taking, many people love taking personality tests because it tells them something about themselves, potentially, or kind of confirms things.
Sort of mental reward into the actual onboarding as well.
Sure. There's another really good website out there called User Onboard, or User Onboarding. I don't know if you've seen it. Excellent website. So it goes through the onboarding process for many popular websites. Definitely worth checking out.
User Onboard or UX or?
Called, let me find it, User Onboarding, but the website is, so it is useronboard.com.
I'm checking it out now. I'm going to add a link to the thing. Dude, this has been really enlightening. As he's going through Traverse Market, okay, all right, that's interesting, because I'm working with a lot of trainers myself and people who are doing online courses. They've got fantastic educational materials, but the biggest struggle there is getting people to complete them and making sure that the training isn't dry. It doesn't feel like it's cookie cutted.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting area as well. And I think just looking back to, what people find motivating is really important. So, having content which suits their particular skill level, having the ability to choose kind of what content they tackle next, and then also supporting the connectedness with others. So there's the relatedness part is a great way to start.
Am I looking at the right one now? Useronboard.com. It's talking about
user onboard.
User onboarding is a process of increasing your likelihood, but it's talking about Hillary.
Yes. Oh yeah, so they tear down the Hillary website by the looks of it, or the Hillary app.
Okay.
Look at popular websites,
it's
and they
really,
tear it down.
I don't want to say bland website, but it's simple. I'm assuming there's some sort
of... the user onboard.
Yeah, their website. I'm like, there's not much going on, but I know exactly what it is. I can see that it's a hot topic.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's interesting, because it's a really basic website, but they do a really good job. The best part of the teardown's very funny as well. So they use a lot of humor in it to make it more engaging, and the teardowns are good. And they provide a lot of value as well.
It's so counterintuitive to what you're taught about website development, though. It's...
Yeah, I mean, but at the same, it depends on who you... Yeah, it's pretty funny. But I mean, there's certain trends these days which, from a user experience point of view, things like, as soon as you go to exit the page, a pop-up appears and asks you for your name and your email. As a user experience designer, I hate that. Like, it happens when I'm not even leaving the website. I'm trying to just read the content. So things like that start to annoy me as a user and makes me like the website less and less. So it's interesting, these kind of trends which you see appearing.
Exit intent, okay, and that's something that Google's starting to penalise now. But
Yeah.
from the marketer's perspective, they look and say, okay, I can get the subscriber even though they're not coming back, but we can retarget them. Is it
Yeah, yeah.
detrimental to your business by having these extent their user
Well,
pop-ups?
yeah, I mean, so yes, in the quick, in the short term, it may be useful. You may get a few people, but if you just have a look at the most successful brands, obviously we're not those yet, but like Apple, does Apple do it, for example, or do Google do it? No, they focus on the value of the content that they have and the experience that particular. There are, these kind of things which you can do as shortcuts, and they can be useful. And this is the same with gamification, right? So this is, you can throw in a gamification platform, badges, points, and leaderboards, and that may have a short-term effect or it may motivate people. But it's really motivation that we were talking about earlier. But what you really want is an intrinsically motivated person, someone who loves your brand, loves the content that you do, rather than, kind of just signing up because you harass them a little bit.
Long-term value versus short-term. Like I know a few investor friends talk about this, looking go slow to go fast. So in the beginning, you really focus on the little things, the nitty-gritty, and make sure that everything's working for the user.
Yes, and because it really is. It's
detrimental to. It's often detrimental to your business growth and to scale initially, but because your users are so excited about it, you don't need to spend as much on marketing. You don't need to be an outward force as much. Yeah.
I think one of the best kind of takeaways is that you shouldn't focus on making an awesome product. You should focus on making an awesome person or an awesome user who use your product and be like, I feel like this has made me smarter. I feel like I get a lot of value from this. And that's when they're going to tell their friends about it as well. It's like, man, this makes me, Apple do a really good job at this. Their MacBooks, they build them, they create these products which people can then make their own stuff with. iMovie, incredibly easy to make movies with. And it empowers people. It makes them feel really, it makes them feel really good. To me. You really want to focus on making the person badass or making the person awesome. Kathy Sierra, who is a really interesting person who does a lot of design work. Check her out, Kathy Sierra. Check out some of her talks. But she talks about making your user badass and really focusing on making the user feel awesome rather than making just an awesome product. That's what you're doing. You're building value for someone else. You really want to know what they want.
Present moment, it seems like almost like dating, and you want to be playful and woo them to get them in, and then just throw in little bits of spontaneity.
It's like, you don't want to tell people, I love long walks on the beach, but you really just love sitting inside playing video games.
Childlike fun. But you know what I think?
Right.
People
really
like people have fun. Okay, cool. So you become the fun brand that makes them feel good about themselves because they're allowing themselves to express themselves in emotions that bring out joy, and because they're enjoying themselves, they come back to learn more, and their deeper connection with you, which becomes brand advocates.
Yeah, so I mean, you want to get to the point where people are recommending your product, and to do that, you make your product make them feel awesome. So I mean, one great example, Crash Course. Have you seen Crash Course videos by John Green and Hank Green?
The name, I haven't seen it though.
Great, very good high production, but they talk about history, for example, but they're just so funny. But they also make me, I learn quite well from them. They do a really good job of teaching things. And so you're like, this is good. And I want to recommend this to other people.
Okay.
And it's teaching me information. So Crash Course is a good example of, kind of online teaching or online learning videos that are done really well.
That is super cool. Dude, this has been awesome. I've had a lot of fun. I think I better let you go because you've got a busy day, I'm sure you said.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, we've jumped around a lot. We talked about a lot of different things, but ultimately it's really about focusing on the user. So who the people are using your app, your website, and then building an experience that they're going to love.
Cool, man. Well, this has been awesome. Where can people learn more about you and, I guess, gain more of your expertise if they want to?
Ooh, jump on the website, gamificationgeek.com.
And I know you mentioned one about app development as well. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got an app development company as well. We specifically focus on doing, for example, reviews of people apps to make sure they're engaging or that they're usable. And that website's eatmorepixels.com.
I love that name.
Yeah, I know. It's fun.
Cool, man. Well, it's been awesome. I'll speak to you soon, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yoss, it was great chatting.
All right, brother. Let me turn this off.